to see everyone. What a blessing. What a blessing. Thank you for coming.
While we're all standing, why don't we start with a prayer? Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
friend, beloved God,
friend, beloved God,
great masters,
great masters,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
beloved Guru Paramahansa Ananda,
beloved Guru Paramahansa Ananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
humbly and lovingly we bow at thy feet.
humbly and lovingly we bow at thy feet.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
be with us,
be with us,
guide our way,
guide our way,
purify our hearts,
purify our
let
hearts,
us feel your presence
let us feel your presence
in our hearts,
in our
in
hearts,
our minds.
in our minds.
Help us feel your joy in our soul.
Help us feel your joy in our soul.
Show us the way, Divine Mother.
Show us the way, Divine Mother.
Hold us by the hand.
Hold us by the hand.
Guide us home.
Guide us home.
In this lifetime.
In this lifetime.
Om Peace. Amen. Please be seated. So we'll start our program. We're very grateful to Nayaswami, Pranaba and Nayaswami, Parvati. They came from Ananda village to give us tonight. They will be speaking to us about the astral spine, the highway to self-realization. So we'll do a little bit of introduction about who they are later on, but we can start with the choir now. So we're going to come to this.
Yay, the choir.
Every morning when I greet the sun and I move forth through crowded ways, in my heart, Lord, never so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, never so silently, I will always think of Thee. When I laugh, Lord, and when I cry with pain, when my best friends misunderstand, in my heart, Lord, never so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, never so silently, I will always think of Thee. Dear heart,
like a school song. No, one of the few things that we do.
Thank you again, everyone, for being here, and thank you, Pranaba, thank you, Parvati. Nayaswami Pranaba is the head of the Ananda Sangha worldwide, and the Ananda's outreach ministry, Ananda's work worldwide. So he is with all of us. Something I want to say about Pranaba is every now and then we email, ask questions, and I'm sure some of us here have had that experience. So you send an email and you think, okay, it's very busy, so he's going to respond the next day or two, hopefully. And you go back to check your email, in 5 minutes, he's already responded. And one time I asked him, are you just waiting for us to email you to give an answer? And I heard that from other people also. He always responds right away. Same with Parvati. It's amazing. More than what he does on a day-to-day basis, responsibilities, I would like to say he's a friend of everyone. And I say the same thing about Parvati, a friend of everybody. They have this thing where they make everybody your closest friend. And that's what I would like to know them as, more than what they do on a day-to-day basis. Parvati leads the Ananda Janaka Foundation. That's the charitable foundation that helps the work of Ananda worldwide, and we've benefited all, everybody has benefited from the work that she does through the foundation, and we're really grateful for that. I don't want to take too much time. Tonight's program is not about what they do, but about what they've done and what the wisdom that they have to share with all of us. They've been teaching yoga and meditation for many, many years. Between the two of them, they have more than 80 years of teaching yoga and meditation. So, if there's anybody, I don't want to say how many. So combine more than 80. So if there's anyone who can talk about the Astral spine, it's the two of them. So thank you so much again. And
Thank you, Michael. Seeing as that you've created such a easy environment here, I think I'll not stand and be formal. I'll make it more conversational. You know, the chakras and the astral spine is something that's appreciated by a lot of people, obviously, in the world now. Then you go to a bookstore. I remember when we were in Portland, Oregon, years ago, that some Ananda members have a metaphysical bookstore called the New Renaissance. Actually, it survived pandemic and it's still going. But and we did a lot of classes there. And I remember one time doing a series on the chakras and going downstairs just to see, you know, what books they had. They had row after row after row on the chakras. And in looking through quite a number of them, I realized the challenge with the astral spine and chakras, it can be very entertaining esoterically. But what we want to have happen is the experience of that. So an understanding is suitable and important because it gives us the backdrop for really then tuning into what that is as my experience. The astral spine and the chakras are, of course, as we know, the inner universe. And sometimes that can seem very esoteric, kind of removed, and kind of a nice spiritual idea. But it's as practical as having good diet or good exercise, especially good meditation. But it's real. It's not a fanciful, ethereal thing. It's very, very real in a practical sense that really enlivens who we are. And if we can gain more of an understanding, and then more importantly, more of an experience, then it's part of the transformational process that's available to us. It isn't just for a chosen few, it's for everyone. When we were talking with Padma earlier, that there's a dentist we go to outside in Grass Valley near Ananda Village. And Parvati's been going to this dentist for a while, and I had the transfer from my other dentist. But you know, they have you fill out forms, except they're on iPads, they're not in paper anymore. And it asks, what name do you want to be known as? Because you have to get the legal name, obviously. And I wrote down Pranaba. So when I got into the dentist chair and they did the assessment, and the dentist says, so, is it pronounced Pranaba? And I said, you're close. Pranaba. But then afterwards, the dentist assistant had me, you know, finalize things for my next appointments. And she said, so, why did you choose that name? And she said, oh, but did someone give you the name? Because they're familiar somewhat with Ananda. And I said, Swami Kriyananda gave me the name. And she said, well, what does it mean? And I said, it's the cosmic sound of Om. And without batting an eye, she responded by saying, oh, the vibration behind all creation.
Wow.
We're on the same page. So when I was going for my, I had a crown replaced. These guys are really super tech, and they're super personable. You know, you couldn't ask for a better combination. But they do crowns now in one sitting. And normally all the crowns I've had, which aren't that many, you go and they do the first part, they grind down and make it ready for the crown. And then they take the mold, and then you get it baked, and you come back whenever, and you know, so you're there for 2 long visits. They do it in 1 visit, but it's 2.5 hours long. But what happens in that time is that there are 2 times when you're just sitting there in the chair. I forget what the first one was for, 15 minutes, and then the second one was when they're baking the crown. Because it's this nice fluorescent purple, actually, before they bake. And I said, that wouldn't be bad having. But in both times, because I told them in the beginning, you know, I'll probably just meditate when you're doing this. Now, you really don't necessarily meditate deeply, because this thing is grinding right beside you into your mouth. But I could focus, I could concentrate. And so after this, well, before the second period, the longer 30-minute period, the dentist said, so do you want me to also turn off the overhead music? Because it's more like a white noise, the music that they're playing. And I said, yeah. And I said, I'm just going to meditate. He said, good. So when he came back, I had a very deep meditation at that point. And I mentioned this to him, and he said, awesome. He went like this and saying, awesome. And I thought, you know, the vibration of us being more in the astral spine allows us to interact in those mundane situations in life, because we're centered in who we are, not centered in our periphery. Well, we're not even centered in our periphery when we're in our periphery. We're just let loose in our periphery. And it made me understand and experience that how practical it is to live at that level of the teachings, that we can go to a dentist's office and we're not strange, we're not doing something, well, maybe I was, but you're just there, you're being who you are, but you're in that inner, not only reflection, but that inner reality of that. And the chakras in the astral spine is, in a sense, the highway of those inner realities of that inner universe. So we need to find ways where they become more of who we are than of what we're doing, although we need to do, but it's more than who we are in that experience. It's like this dentist assistant saying, oh, the vibration behind all the creation. That's what we're trying to open up to. And that's a good word, open up to. Because of course the reality is, it's always happening. That infinite flow of energy in our astral spine is happening whether you know about it consciously or not. And the conscious mind isn't really well suited to understanding it anyway. So what we're doing with the chakras in the astral spine, we're opening up to that. And we're working with the obvious tools, as I mentioned before, of meditation, of So what we're really doing is that we're adding our will and our awareness into that openness of that experience that's already happening. Because it's interesting, if you've ever had a situation medically where you had to go under with anesthesia. Well, I had a knee operation in December, and when I was in the pre-op room before the surgery, the doctor came out, and actually the doctor prayed, and a lot of Ananda people have gone to him, but he said, normally what I do is I offer up a prayer. Is that okay? And I said, you bet. But then the anesthesiologist came in, and I talked to him on the phone a few days before, but he came in and he said, right away, he said, I get to take you into Happy Land. And then he said, the research that's out now shows that you can actually direct where you're going under the anesthesia. And I said, yeah, I've heard of that. He said, so where would you like to go? He said, do you have a favorite beach, that you want to go to? And I said, I'd like to go to heaven. And he just laughed. And he said, I can't give you a one-way ticket. And I thought, well, that's, and then when we got into the operating room, one of the nurses, a male nurse, said to me, so what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a minister. He said, oh, that's great. Yeah, I got my minister's license and performed a wedding. I said, yeah, it's a little bit different than that. But then he wheeled me in, and I thought, there's these 8 strangers to me. I mean, granted, I met 2 of them 3 minutes before. But I thought, so I'm going to help them in their experience. So I looked at each one of them, and I said, so let's have a good adventure. Best wishes for you. And they loved it. I went out under the sedation. But it was just one of those experiences where being more in the spine, and that's what I felt when I was, just before they sedated me with the IV, I thought, okay, Yogananda, I'm with you, I know you're with me, and let me be in my center, in my inner self, my inner spine, and let me just be there through this, whatever happens. If I happen to need to leave my body, c'est la vie. And but let this be an offering to you. And I felt that, just for a brief moment before the sedation came into effect, but I thought, why won't we do this all the time? Why not in the little moments when it's a little bit trickier because it just seems one more little moment after another, and there's nothing outstanding. It's not an operating table you're on, but it's at those points, as Lahiri Mahashaya said, really what the essence is between the breaths, between the breathing in and out. That's where the divine is for each one of us. But I thought you can extrapolate that and feel that that's true every moment if we attune ourselves. And the chakras are simply a way to enliven and bring us to a focus that we can work with. Because, as I said, if it's just esoteric, wow kind of stuff, or you're hoping for wow to happen, the wow may happen, but it may not be beneficial. Because it has to be always at the point of integration. And so we can understand the chakras from that perspective. And one of the things that Lahiri Mahashaya and Yogananda emphasized was this thing of understanding the elements, not the chemical elements that you see on the charts, but the 5 basic elements of earth, water, fire, air, ether. Because it's a way to kind of get inside of what's the understanding rather than just, oh, that's intellectual and I understand it. But no, how do we, in a sense, feel it more? And so if you think of the base chakra, which is called the Muladhara chakra, it has the earth element. And the only reason why they're really important to understand from these elements is not in and of themselves those elements, but the allegorical nature of those elements. So what's a good synonym for earth? Ground, grounding, solid, stabilizing. But they're all similar qualities. It's that sense of really finding that solidity, that stability, that groundedness, so that we don't waver. You know, Swami Ananda said when someone asked him what's the best yoga posture, and he said, which we've all heard maybe a number of times, the yoga posture allows you to stand on your own 2 feet, meaning that groundedness. Because without that, we can be challenged. I mean, with my knee operation, it was only an arthroscopic knee surgery, so it wasn't a knee replacement, but I really, really understood groundedness in a unique, different way from the operation. Because I had to hobble. But I thought, again, if I'm grounded in my experience, even when I'm not functioning totally as I was used to, with my balance, my walking gait, I still can be centered. So one of the things the therapist gave me was, standing on one foot, for 30 to 60 seconds, and doing it on the other. And I thought, wow, this is great. This is pure yoga. Granted, she was looking at it, it was just creating not only balance, but strengthening my quadriceps. But I thought, so I took it a step further. I thought, I'm going to keep my spine straight and have really, really good posture doing this. Because you can easily, kind of lean over like this, but standing focused. And sometimes I put my hands out like that, just to feel there's an openness that's happening rather than that. And I could feel when then I would sit to meditate, that grounding effect, that stabilizing effect in my energy. So those are positive qualities that we have for the earth element. What are some elements that are on the kind of negative side or contractive side of the earth element? Contraction. That was cheating.
Stubbornness.
Stubbornness. Being stuck.
Stuck in the middle.
Yeah, being dogmatic. This is interesting. Someone said this years ago, decades ago, that I really appreciate. They said, the challenge isn't about, dogma. It's about being dogmatic about dogma. Dogmas are going to be a part of our lives. We have a dogma of how the way we brush our teeth, for instance, which I've been doing differently since seeing these new dentists. but being stuck in routine. Now, Yogananda talked about routine being a vital part of us creating that stability. But if routine is directing you, then it's not healthy. But if you're directing routine, that's pretty subtle, that difference, because sometimes we're just swept away by routine, but this is how I do it. But if we can refocus, and of course, we know from meditation, it refocuses and refines and refreshes the connection with the mundane things. But we still need to initiate, even though we have meditation behind that flow, we need to initiate that experience of it. But being stubborn, being dogmatic, being stuck, is that side of us that takes the energy and puts it into a vortex that's no longer available to us. So it's pretty real that we won't want to be stuck, right? But we can still use that stability to give us the strength and the soundness of moving forward. But we need to have the next element, water. And so water, in terms of a positive experience, what are some of the things that come to mind? Fluid. Fluid?
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Flexibility. Adapting. Softening. Yeah, it's true. Creative. So what's the downside of water?
Lack of boundaries.
Lack of boundaries. Wishy-washy. What else?
Too flexible.
Too
Yeah.
flexible. It's true. It's true. You know, in the world of Hatha Yoga, people that are super flexible aren't gaining much from the practice of asanas, which is interesting. So they have to adapt poses in a different way than most of us have to adapt from being stiff to make sure that the energy flows are happening rather than just their bodies can contort or do a pose. How do you work with the prana behind that position? So that's that element of water. That, you know, if you think of the image of water and earth, you know, you see a stream of water and you put a good sized boulder in it, what happens? Just the water doesn't mind the boulder being there, does it? It's not complaining. Hey, what are you doing in my stream? But isn't that how we relate to the challenges in our life? Why are you in my stream? Why are you bugging me? You know, whatever. But no, all we can do with the water is move around it. But that boulder, representing earth in a certain way, gets to be blessed by the water. So it becomes part of the stream rather than isolated from the stream. And that's an important connection there of the chakras and these elements, that they're kind of weaving themselves into a holistic approach to things. They're not just, because think of this, that overall what we're doing with this astral spine, we're focusing on the magnetic flow of energy from the base up to the spiritual eye. And so that's that magnetism that allows us to be on that infinite highway to our divine consciousness. But within each chakra, we have the opportunity to shift the flow within that chakra in a magnetic, positive, expansive way. So both need to happen. So the entire practice of yoga and its techniques, it's designed to create that general flow of energy, especially Kriya Yoga, to be more magnetic and more present in our lives. But because some of us have challenges in certain areas of our lives, or some of us have challenges in many areas of our lives, whatever, there's always not only hope, there's potential of transformation. And so, but we can then look at the different chakras and orient that flow of energy in the right direction. And so if we're understanding the earth element in a positive way is that stability and not the stubbornness, then we can always, in a situation where our tendency may be to dive into being stuck and stubborn or dogmatic, we recognize, that's appearing again. Let me shift that same energy that's moving in that direction into an expansive one of being just in that firmness, that stability, and just have that as your energy. And so it's moving the energy. You know, if you're going to try to think your way out of that, good luck. You know, I was, when all that was here for Ananda in LA was the first Torrance Yoga Center that Turiya started, that I would come down here in the early 2000s and do a lot of programs all over Southern California. And someone made contact with this chiropractor who had a TV show on Cablevision out of Long Beach. And so this friend invited me, and this guy's name was Dr. Don, D-O-H-N. I don't know if he's still around, probably should check. But, you know, he even goes to the point where he put on the pancake makeup and stuff, you know, to look good. And then he said to me right away, he said, I don't want you just talking on this show. I said, explain that. He said, I want more than you just laying out what you want to lay out. And I said, no problem. And I said, well, do these exercises, the super conscious living exercises. I'm awake and ready. And I prefaced it by saying, you know, if you're in a mood meaning the same diving into whatever the negative qualities of these chakras are. You can't just say, oh, I don't want to do that. I think I'll change. Because you haven't dealt with the energy that's animating that direction. You just had a thought. And the thought is a good thing, but combined with an energy shift, then you have a transformation. And so after we did it the first time, he said, wow, I can see shifting out of a mood by doing these things. I'm shifting energy. He had me do it 2 more times. This is only a 30-minute show. He wanted to make sure people really got this. And he said he really got it, felt that. But it's the same thing. So with the water element, we want to make sure we're not just flexible, but we have a grounding that allows that flexibility to be focused. Because what happens in the desert when there's an outpouring of water? If I know in Tucson, Arizona, we have a group there, so I've been there a number of times. They have these huge kind of, I don't know what they're called, but rivers, I guess, that are always dry for 11 months of the year. And there's no water at all. And suddenly there's 12 feet of water because of the thunderstorms, a monsoon. They actually call them monsoons there. But you just realize that water dissipates within a few days. It just goes out to the desert once it's out of the channel, and it's gone. So the point is, we don't want to just waste that fluidity. We want to make sure it's focused and going somewhere. So we have then, what's the third element? The Manipur chakra. Fire. So what's the positive side of fire? What do we do every Sunday? Pretty much. Purification. Purification. And what is purification all about? Transformation. It's really letting go of the obstacles and refining the positive attributes. And more than that, the energy consciousness is refined. And we're releasing the obstacles and opening up to the potential. But fire, in terms of qualities, what do we have beyond that?
Vitality.
Vitality.
Willpower. Willpower.
Willpower.
Initiation.
Initiation.
Motivation.
Very much. Motivation comes from that chakra, yeah. Enthusiasm, yeah. I think fire's winning out here. But there are all those qualities from that fire. From, the 5 Pandava brothers from the Mahabharata story, that Arjuna is that chakra, fiery self-control. So that's the other thing, self-control. So on the negative side, what do you see in terms of fire?
Burning.
Burning.
Burnout.
Burnout.
Anger.
Anger.
Destruction.
Destruction.
Out of control.
What was that?
Out of control.
Out of control. And another aspect, which is very interesting for the fire chakra, there's a tendency on the negative side to have dominance. To not have self-control, but try to control others, try to manipulate what's going on by controlling others. And so, it's something we can appreciate maybe when others are doing that to us, but sometimes we're not quite as observant when we're the one imposing that on others. But the key here is, where's the energy going? Because if you are in that mode of dominance, what do you think it feels like in your body? Specifically, at that chakra. You start to feel a tightness. Yeah, it's a down, you can feel it dragging, or more than that, really pulling the energy. But you can feel it right there. And if you pay attention to that, you've got a barometer, in a sense, of what's going on, that you don't have to rely on, I hope I'll catch it. Just tune into feeling rather than thinking, and it gives you that insight, and it gives you the experience of where you don't want to be, which is very important. So fire is taking that fluid experience of water and allowing us to be empowered in that. And then we come to the heart chakra, the Anahata chakra, and what's the element?
Air.
Air. So what happens when you have fire and water? You have steam. Yeah, you have air in that way. So the positive qualities of the heart,
Expansiveness.
what's that?
Expansiveness.
Expansiveness, it's true. The heart is that, yeah.
Devotion.
Devotion,
Compassion.
love, compassion.
Air is difficult to contain.
Yeah, expansive, yeah.
Relates to compassion, but empathy.
Empathy, yeah. But you know, I was in a situation with Swami Ananda one time, and he was, saying he, couldn't eat all his food on the plate. And I said, I have compassion for you. And then he pushed his plate across to me. Now I just ate my large lunch. And I said, no. And he said, then it's not compassion. And then he clarified to me, which is very interesting. So sympathy is when you feel sorry for someone.
Right.
Empathy is when you've had a similar experience, you relate to that. Compassion is where you activate the connection rather than just feel.
Eat the food.
And I thought, wow, that's interesting. So if nothing else, we can start with sympathy from the heart energy, right? Because we can feel, oh, poor fellow here, Empathy is where we've walked in those shoes. We know that experience. Compassion is saying, how do I help the situation? And fortunately for us, a very powerful tool that may seem not as direct as what we think when we talk about activated is healing prayers. Healing prayers come from our heart, and we're wrapping that aura of true compassion being activated to that other person. So very powerful. So the negative flow of energy in the heart chakra with air.
Desires and attachments.
Yeah.
Desires and attachments. What are desires and attachments? They're contractive little pools of energy that bind that thing for ourselves rather than feeling it as an experience. Because the obvious answer you'll know, but is love ours? Yes, if we tune into the divine experience of it. Otherwise, it's really not so much love, but kind of a manipulation of relationship. And I don't mean in a negative way necessarily. It's just that I love you, I want you to say I love you back. It's a transaction, yeah. So the negative side is whether it's an ATM transaction.
ATM love.
Heart to heart. But what other negative parts of the heart?
This is two words, but like the flip side of compassion or like oversensitivity, like being so impossible to function, so sensitive.
This is interesting. This came up. I was doing a class for the Living Discipleship Program, which is the immersion program at the village. But someone was saying about this. So sensitivity, being sensitive, it's an interesting thing. You have to be sensitive to understand this. No. But there's kind of, again, two different flows of energy with being sensitive. Because sometimes we'll say, I just feel I'm too sensitive, I'm being bombarded. Too open to things, I'm being too sensitive. And that happens. But as we grow spiritual, as we tune into that inner flow of energy, what happens is that the sensitivity that we have is, again, the attunement of God's presence in things. We're more sensitive to that. And so we're not blown away by being emotionally sensitive. We're growing in expansiveness through the openness of our sensitivity. Isn't that interesting? Now, believe me, applied to real life, that's a significant tool to have, to be able to change that, because you know what it's like when you're blown out by being sensitive emotionally. I mean, it's no fun experience, it's painful. But if we can catch it and not push that away, but takes the heart's energy, expand it, be sensitive to the flow of the divine love in ourselves or within others and the situation. That's the heart energy and that expansiveness that you were saying, Omkara, that's what we're working with. So the fifth chakra, at the throat chakra, ether. What the heck is ether?
Communication of all ways.
Yeah, it's a medium of more open flow, is a nice way to understand it. In science, there's a whole controversy about what ether is and what isn't. There's different understandings of it. But from the spiritual side, it's that, as we know, the deep calmness, the deep sense of inner peace and drive and opening up the rest of the flow of the chakras. So that calmness there, that peace is there. What's the downside of ether in that sense of it's expansive, but what's the downside? It's a little bit more subtle, more sensitive.
Maybe apathy.
Diffusive. You can't stay focused.
Yeah, it's both those. And your point was apathy, where you're not focused. It's like this happens. You probably have all felt this. Maybe not, but maybe you have. That there's a sense sometimes when you're in that experience of peace, you gotta zone out. You know, you drift into the subconscious more. You know, it's interesting. Years ago, I read this study. I think it was an article or something called Yoga's, Science Studies Yoga. And they did this thing about relaxation. You know, when at the end of a yoga asana practice, normally, most times, we end up in the corpse pose, savasana, and we do a deep relaxation. So they hooked up people to read their vital signs, you know, cardiovascular, respiratory, skin temperature, all of that. And what they found was that as people went into deep relaxation, that if they kind of went subconscious daydreaming, they had less relaxation. But when they were able to remain focused, conscious, maybe super conscious, they continued to deepen the state of relaxation. That's pretty revealing. It's not only interesting, again, apply that to your life. When you start to drift, whether, I'm sure none of you have done that meditation, but if that so happens, then just catch it. I was saying to someone the other day that, you know, it's easy for us to drift in meditation, but I said, you know, we'll try to get out of it. But I found that at the end of each technique that I do, you know, whether it's Hong Sa, Om, or whatever, Kriya, that if I've been drifting, I want to make sure at least the last 30 seconds is absolutely there in the technique. Even if I spent 15 minutes in La La Land.
So that we are in LA.
Well, that's what I was saying. I didn't say that.
That's where the term comes from.
I know. So I was innocent, so it's okay. But anyways, we need to make this practical is the essence of this. And what we can do is actually look at how that is. And so I'm going to have Parvati lead us through some exercises that make it more of a focus for us. And so we've got a little bit more understanding, but now let's actually go through this experience.
And before I do that, I just wanted to say a few words about, you know, it's funny, when we were preparing for this, I thought, oh, the astral spine, wow, what an interesting topic. But when I was reading through and just remembering what Pranaba was talking about the positive and negative aspects of each chakra, do look at that. It's in the Raja Yoga book very clearly, but do take note of that, because what I could feel is that if you check into that, you can start to feel what's real in your life, you know. So am I grounded or am I contracted? And it'll help you to make it real, you know, to come back to, because these centers, as Pranaba was saying, the chakras, they're always happening. whether we're dynamically aware of them, they are happening, and the energy is moving up and down that astral spine. And so, but if we're aware of that, it can be very helpful in your daily life. Just to say one chakra, you know, and that feeling of groundedness or contraction or whatever it might be, because the awareness of who we are is what determines where our energy goes in the spine. So, you know, we concentrate here at the point between the eyebrows to draw that energy up the spine, but also the awareness of where we're actually at right now is very important, because I think you'll find that you're farther along than you thought you were. You know, it's an esoteric thing, the chakras, and yet they're very practical. It's energy. And so is it going up or down? Is it going out or in? You know, how is the energy moving? And just to bring it back to how practical the energy and the knowing and the awareness of the energy in ourselves makes the chakras really very, very helpful. And it's not, you know, you'll think, oh, very esoteric and all of this, and you can get lost, believe me. You know, I had a chart one time of all of the various movements of energy and the planets and the elements and the gems and the, you know, everything associated. That's all fine, but it needs to be relevant to our life, minute by minute, day by day, and to really tune into that. You'll find that, I think you'll each find that you're farther along than you thought you were. Just the fact that you're here tonight and that you're interested in self-realization, in meditation, in Kriya Yoga, many of you may have that, whatever, but that you're interested in this subject, you'll find that the chakras are already working for you. You know, it's already there, and you just need to be more aware and to practice, you know, being aware. So, let's see. Oh, it does.
You want some blankets, you know?
So what we thought we'd do is just go through Swami Ananda when he introduced superconscious living in about 1979 and the superconscious attunement ceremony. He also introduced a way to chant Om at the chakras with using notes on the harmonium, and it's actually quite helpful because you get the feeling of a vibration of each chakra rather than just thinking about it. So we'll do that, and let's see how we go. Oops. That's enough. So we'll start at the bottom, the coccyx. We'll go 1.5 inches up to the sacral center. The next note will be for the navel center. The next note will be for the heart. And the last note will be for the throat center. And then we'll come back down here. Does it go on medulla and spiritual line?
Can you tell us the starting note? The note you start on, can you tell us what note that is?
G.
G.
Go G. Heart. base, the Swadhisthana, 1.5 inches up, the navel center, the heart center, the throat center, the medulla, and the Christ center. It's also that vibration. Let's make it more specific physically by tensing and relaxing each of the chakras as well. So the muscles around the area. So starting at the base of the spine, around the anus, tense, vibrate, and relax. The sacral center, just 1.5 inches up, very close. Tense around the 6 organs. And relax. The navel center, each one feeling the energy flowing up. The navel center tense around the stomach area. And relax. Feel the energy flowing up into the heart. And the shoulder blades together, tensing at the heart center. And relax. The energy flows up to the throat, at the base of the throat. Tense. Relax. Energy flows up to the medulla. Tense. And relax. And the energy flows up now to the point between the eyebrows, the Christ center. Tense there. And relax. Just sit for a moment, feeling the blessing of each chakra from the coccyx, the sacral, the navel, the heart, the throat, the medulla, and the Christ center between the eyebrows. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I also wanted to say that when we're working with the chakras, and again, very helpful, as I was saying, to just review positive and negative flows of energy at each chakra, what they represent, those qualities, but also to know that we really want to focus in the heart, throat, the medulla, and the point between the eyebrows, the upper centers, in other words, because, as Pranaba was saying, we're working with energy, we're working with flows of energy, which is very positive and helpful because it's not stuck in form. Its energy can be moved. And so by focusing mainly on the upper chakras, we begin to create a magnetism. And that magnetism draws on those lower centers, bringing them up, influencing them, influencing the positive qualities of each of those lower chakras to flow up into the heart center and the throat and the medulla and the point between the eyebrows. You can also just focus at the point between the eyebrows, but it's why each of these centers is really important, just to understand that that's why you're doing that. If you do that, you're not ignoring, people will think, oh, those lower bad chakras. No, all of the chakras are very important. They're part of how God made us. It's why human beings, people say, well, human life, that's why, because human beings are the one form of life on this planet that have the potential to realize their oneness with God through the chakras and through the energy of the chakras. So anyway, just be aware of that and really use that in your life. I'll just tell you a couple of experiences that I had, specifically in the heart center. It's just a very dynamic center, and as Swami Kriyananda said to us, Ananda Ma had related to him, she said, don't forget, in the heart center, the energy can go up or down. It's a dividing line. And so you have to be very careful about it, that you're directing that energy upward. But you'll find it interesting, again, just to be aware in your mundane life as you go along and daily doing whatever you're going to do. There'll be places where you may feel inspired, and that will be in the heart. I remember unexpectedly, we were in Italy at the time, and we were having a small pilgrimage group that we were directing, and we went to the hilltop town of Cortona, and I hadn't been there before. It's in between Lake Trasimeno and Florence, and so it was a very important hilltop town in 1500s or whatever, whenever they were all city-states in Italy. But in this very beautiful little hilltop town, Cortona, we were walking around, and there's a beautiful basilica up at the top, and there's a remnants of the fort that used to be up there where they look out to see who was going to invade them next, and that kind of thing. But we walked into a very small museum, and it was only like 6 rooms or something, and it didn't say anything special about it. But as we walked through the rooms, I went into this one room, and it was like, oh, whoa! It was 2 very large Fra Angelico paintings. Fra Angelico he's the one that did the Annunciation. He painted frescoes on one of the, on San Marco, isn't it? San Marco, where monks were living. He painted frescoes on the walls of their cells. Very refined, beautiful, but these were really large. I had no idea they existed. And I just walked in and was like, oh, wow! And there they were. And they were just stunningly beautiful, but I felt the energy here. Yeah. And I could feel it going up, because it was a spiritual thing that was very beautiful. A lot of gold. It was an Annunciation. There were 2 of them, an Annunciation and then some other theme, I don't remember, but they were large. The Annunciation, I got a print of it. You always do this when you're traveling. You see something that's like, wow, and then you buy the print and it's like, because when you go to see those paintings, the originals of paintings, you feel the consciousness of the person who did them. It's a direct hit. And I've experienced this also. I'll tell you about another experience, but this one was, and there was no place to sit. I wanted to sit and meditate, but there was no way to do it. But the painting, there was gold in it, and the angel that was doing the Annunciation had orange hair and a hot pink robe. And it was just so, and this is from the 1400s, Fra Angelico. Yeah. So anyway, there was that experience of that. And then more recently, we had a beautiful, and I'm saying this to you just so take note. You may find unexpectedly things, just that are stunningly beautiful. Notice that in the chakra and direct that energy up to the point between the eyebrows. So I walked into a new building that we have down in the central part of Ananda, downtown Ananda. I can tell you also, one of our members who moved from an apartment half a block from Central Park and was a designer there for many years, a graphic designer. He moved to Ananda. His name is Chris Grisman. And he said he had to live downtown, so he lived downtown Ananda. He lives in a little house right next to the market, and so he's right in the center of it. But at any rate, we have a new building there where it's offices, and there are a couple of offices in there and then a big open space, and we're just kind of experimenting what we're doing with it. Well, one of the first things that went in there was an art exhibit, and it was on the Divine Mother. And, you know, I thought, oh, that's nice, but gosh, it's gonna go on for so long, and why are they taking up all this space? And then one day I was down there talking to Ananda Devi, who had her office in there, and it was, I just went in briefly, I popped in briefly to see her, and when I went out, I didn't bring my jacket, it was February, it was freezing cold in there, but I walked out and I just started looking at each of the exhibits, and most of them were Ananda artists, but they were also people from the area, and I couldn't stop. I was so cold by the end, but I just looked at each one, and I had to keep going, looking at each one, because what I felt was, I'm getting to know you. I felt the consciousness of each artist, and it was just a unique experience. I've never had that happen before, but it was so beautiful. They were all very different. Some of them are line drawings of heads of people, but refined. They were just beautifully done. Others were paintings. There were some tankas, but these were painted tankas done by a person. So all that intricate stuff, and I just would look at it and think, wow. And it was someone from the area. So anyway, just on and on and on. And then at the very end, and I couldn't stop, I had to go through every single painting or picture or whatever it was. And then at the very end, the one that I should have seen first, I saw last, and that was Jyotisha's painting of Yogananda's mother. And I just looked at that and I thought, oh, wow, Jyotish. It was so simple and so refined and so beautiful. It was the Divine Mother. And anyway, but it was just a very deep, strong experience. So I invite you, you know, whatever way you're inspired in life, take the time to realize that if it's a work of art, if it's a work of music. I also feel this from Swami Kriyananda's music. Certain parts of it are just thrillingly uplifting. And again, feel that in the chakras, here, here, here. So it's something that can help you in daily life to keep the energy moving up, magnetizing those higher centers, and it will help you in meditation. You take that energy and you meditate. And that also, and again, you're drawing up that energy that's very essential, the grounding, the fluidity, the fiery willpower and self-control to keep meditating every day. You know, Devi mentioned this in a satsang months ago, but she said, you know what, I still want to meditate every day. And I thought, yeah, I do too. It's about where the energy in the chakras is. If you're moving that energy up and consciously aware of that, you will find that you can meditate better. You'll find your whole life is reflecting that movement of upward and expansive energy. So, but we need to be aware of it. We need to use it consciously and use the things in our lives that inspire us. Don't just plod along. Meditation and wanting to meditate every day will not happen if you're just saying, I gotta do it, I gotta do it, I got, you know, routine and I'm doing it, I'm, you know, only from will. Sorry, no. Have to move up. You have to have it be that I want to meditate. Even if I'm not very good at it, I want to do it. I can feel the inspiration that happens when I make the effort to do it. And so, you know, again, the chakras they're working for us if we work with them in the right way, and will enhance our spiritual lives tremendously. They already are, but inspiration. You know, one of the things that stood out to me about when Swami wrote the new path, the path and then the new path, was that one of the ways to do this is to be, and he said Yogananda was like this, be intensely interested in everything. You know, he said Yogananda driving down the street stopped at that little shop and bought stuff. He was really interested. And so don't just get dulled down by the city, by the overwhelming sensitivity overwhelmingness, you know, whatever happens. Really try to guide that and be interested in things. I think when I think of Swami Kriyananda and his life, that's what I would feel from him. Joy, for sure, but energy and interest. And so that again brings the energy up in the chakras and allows us to live right where we are in a much better way, an inspired way. So.
Well, thank you. I think we have some treats, Michael.
You do have tweets. There are any questions?
Is there any questions? You know you're in between us and trees.
Hey, that's good to know, yeah. But if you have questions, anything that would relate to everybody?
So the air chakra, or the
Ether.
Let's see, well, the
Heart is the air.
heart is the air. So if you're feeling that in a negative way, is it you're a little airy, you're a little like airheaded, you're
Actually,
like
the
ungrounded, you're
the heart. It's usually about moods and reaction. Yeah, it's a strong energy.
Much more that way.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, moods can seem like they're going to dominate us when we're in the mood. I mean, really, it feels
Yes.
like, what hope have I?
Yeah.
But it's just really awareness and then move the energy. Be kind. When you're in a mood, be kind to others. You know, even if it's just, smiling at someone on the street or opening the door or, giving them help. Because kindness is what activates the heart and it's expansive. Love is a little bit ethereal in those situations. You know, it's a little bit hard to say, I love you. I mean, you could say it, but kindness is that activating force in practice. Because then it allows love to find a placement in a connection with someone. So it's a nice way to shift the energy.
And it's active. If you're putting out energy, protection. Okay, maybe it's
Ready
done.
for treats. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pranaba.
Thank you.
Before we finish we'd like to say something about the upcoming 3 days. Tomorrow we will have another program in Thousand Oaks, but then again, please.
Yes, we have, for tomorrow we're in Thousand Oaks. It's a whole new program, so it's worth the drive. Yes. Some yes, but and then on over the weekend we'll be in Temecula. There's still spots in the house. There's still camping and day passes. I mean, if you can't spend the weekend, you can just come on Saturday. There are a lot of people that come on Saturday. I personally love the whole experience, but sometimes you can't. So whatever works for everyone, there's still a lot of it. So if you feel the inspiration, sign on.
If anyone is interested in carpooling on Saturday, please let me know so we can organize something.
Wonderful.
It's only an hour and a half from here.